Hello, and welcome to this live broadcast by the Houston Media Source. My name is Marco Bracamontes, and I am Manager of Public Outreach with the Houston-Galveston Area Council. The Houston-Galveston Area Council is the voluntary association of local governments in this region. And at the same time, we're the designated metropolitan planning organization for transportation for the 8-county region. As you probably know, transportation decisions have to be made in a regional coordinated manner. And that's why we are inviting residents of the whole region to participate in this public meeting, which deals with a very important corridor for our population and our businesses in the region. That is the US 59, recently redesignated I-69 freeway. That the segment that we're talking about, that we're studying, and that we would like to get your comments from, goes from I-45 in downtown Houston to the Beltway 8. That is a 14-mile corridor that has been designated the third most congested corridor by the Texas A&M, Texas Transportation Institute. 240,000 vehicles go through this segment of the freeway, and as a matter of fact, it impacts the lives of many people. What we're doing here is we would like to present some preliminary study analysis ideas dealing with the problems that we see today. That is, segment by segment, mile by mile. We're presenting the analysis, the results of a very careful and detailed data gathering process that tells us, where congestion is, what's the reason, and that's the first part of the study that we would like to gather comments from. We would like to hear from you people who drive the corridor, going north, going south, going in every segment. Tell us what you encounter in your daily commute and in those, peak hours in this corridor. The second part of the study, or the second part of this public meeting, deals with proposed strategies, alternative measures and improvements that we are considering for this corridor. The study and this particular project is focused on short-term, measures and improvements. That is, in transportation, short-term is 5 years. So we are proposing different ideas. Not all of them are possible, but we would like to gather comments, to see comments from stakeholders, people, who drive trucks, people who drive cars, people who vanpool, who carpool through this corridor, and hear your thoughts about, one, the problems or the issues that we encounter, and second, we would like to hear about the proposed solutions to these issues. I would like to remind your audience that the strategies and solutions, some of them may or may not be feasible, economically, financially, or even operationally feasible. But we're submitting it to the public because we think we would like to get every possible idea considered by the experts and the residents. Let's walk a little bit towards in this room to tell you what is happening. First, we have Station 1, which describes how the study is going to be conducted. It shows the timeline. You can sign up. You can, you can leave your information if you want to be included in the H-GAC mailing list. And we are actually experiencing a good turnout today. A variety of residents, stakeholders, business owners are showing up and, signing up for this meeting. It gives you a little bit of information about the project background, how during the peak hours, a commute that normally takes 20 minutes may take 29, 30 minutes, or even 40 minutes. The same trip, it may take different amount, different time depending on the time of the day. That impacts the reliability of this corridor, which is measured in standard levels of reliability. We consider that people waste so much time, $50 million a year just in wasted time, wasted fuel, and damage to your cars. There's a lot of crashes, so safety is also an issue. And then clearance of every incident. We see incidents on a regular basis. Clearance of an average incident takes 38 minutes, but guess what? We're experiencing more and more those 2.5-hour backup incidents that prevent us to get in time to our work and or to our destination. So this gives you a brief layout of the project schedule. We're now conducting the first outreach wave, September 2014. There's going to be an alternative evaluation later on this year, the beginning of 2015. There's going to be a second public outreach wave in April 2015, which is going to be more proposing specific measures. Today, we're just exploring a wide variety of measures to hear from the public what they think about them. And then the plan development is going to take on in April through June of 2015. As a reminder, this study is the outcome of what is called the Rider 42 that the Texas legislature determined. They allocated a certain amount of time to focus on the top 50 most congested corridors in the state, to analyze, to focus on those areas that create the most trouble or the most issues statewide in terms of congestion and traffic safety. So we're focusing on something that the state legislature has a special interest, and they have told us, to conduct a careful study and recommend some measures for this corridor. Let's move on to the second station. Yes. Absolutely. Un poco de información para la audiencia en español. Estamos hoy aquí en el concilio del área de Houston-Galveston, presentando una junta comunitaria enfocada en un corredor muy importante para la región. Como recordaremos, el Houston-Galveston Area Council, de otra manera llamado el Concilio del Área de Houston-Galveston, es la asociación voluntaria de gobiernos locales y al mismo tiempo es la organización de planeación para el transporte designada por el gobierno federal para que todas las decisiones, las inversiones en transporte sean hechas en forma colegiada, en forma coordinada por todos los gobiernos locales. Estamos hablando de los condados, los 8 condados, Harris County y los condados circunvecinos, así como las municipalidades y otras autoridades competentes en la zona. El día de hoy nos enfocamos en el corredor 59 y esto nos indica que queremos pedir la opinión de los residentes, de los propietarios de negocios y de los otros participantes en el transporte que nos den sus opiniones sobre este corredor, qué problemas enfocan y qué soluciones recomiendan. We're switching back to English and then we're moving on to station number 2, which describes in very detailed manner, how the corridor looks nowadays. It displays very detailed photos and maps, itemizing the exits, the ramps, the what they call the weaving areas that create the most trouble and have the most frequent issues, congestion issues in the 59 corridor. As a reminder, we're just focusing on the 59 going from Beltway 8 to I-45 in downtown Houston. That represents 14 miles of very congested freeway. Again, designated the third most congested freeway corridor by the Texas A&M Texas Transportation Institute, TTI.
And your traffic engineer, did you want to
Yes, we would like to pass it on to one of our consultants that participated in this study to give us a little bit more detail on what's going on Freeway 59 and what they're suggesting, what they're proposing to do for mitigating the congestion on I-69. Brent, okay, here's Mr. Brent Christian. He's a member of a consulting team. He works for Alliance Transportation Consulting. And why don't you take us through this station, describing more in detail what's happening mile by mile in that corridor.
Okay. Very good.
Hold the mic down. And you want to start at the beginning? Take us back there?
Sure.
Is there a beginning?
Yes, there is a beginning. We've actually identified project limits to this project. So we'll start at one end of the project. So I'm at the southernmost part of the corridor, and that's at Houston Tollway or Beltway 8. And what we've done here is we've laid out in aerial fashion the entire corridor from start to finish. So the southernmost limit of the corridor is here at Beltway 8. The northernmost corridor limit is at I-10 downtown. We have, throughout the last couple months, begun to engage the agencies, the local agencies, including TxDOT, including TTI, including the City of Houston, Harris County Toll Road Authority, and of course H-GAC, as well as some other agencies, to solicit their input as to where they see the particular issues occurring along the corridor. We've identified those issues from the agency's perspective and have laid those out on these aerial maps.
Take them through. Point them out one at a time.
Sure. One of the biggest issues along the corridor right now is where we have various ramp locations. And if those ramp locations are laid out in such a way that traffic is trying to merge and exit in a short distance, it creates what we call conflicts. And those conflicts will cause two things to really occur. Number one, a slowdown, because we've got traffic trying to enter the freeway and exit the freeway in a very short distance, or in the worst case, we'll actually have a collision or a crash along the facility. So one of the things that we're looking at along the corridor right now is ramp configuration, and do we need to consider changing some of the different ramp locations and ramp configurations along the corridor?
Do you have any specifics on that?
No, that is one of the things that we're beginning to study right now, and what we are going to do is we have actually started developing a model. H-GAC is developing a model that will actually help us evaluate how these different changes, like ramp locations, will impact travel along the corridor, so we can make an evaluation and an assessment as to what the impact would be as we consider making different changes and improvements to those. So that'll be one of the next phases of what we do after we go through the public involvement phase of the first public involvement meeting. Is not only are we looking for the public agency comment, but we want the public comment in general. And we'll take the comments coming back from the public as well as the public agencies, and then making an assessment on what strategies do we need to consider in order to improve capacity, reduce travel times on the corridor, and increase throughput.
What other details should we focus on?
The other things that we want to take a look at along the corridor are there's a lot of people that really need to consider their travel behavior. And for instance, if the public is making a short trip along the corridor and perhaps they're entering in one location but they're only going a short distance, does it make sense for them to stay on the main lanes or take an alternative route rather than to get on the freeway main lanes? So we're going to actually be evaluating those types of movements, those types of travel patterns and behaviors as well, so we can also determine, are there things that we can do from a design standpoint to actually influence people's travel patterns and behaviors along the corridor.
That legend says queue jumping. What is that?
Well, queue jumping is where people will get into a particular lane that is meant for a particular purpose, and then they'll actually move around that lane and use it for a different purpose than what it's intended. We call that queue jumping.
Going into the entrance ramp in order to get in front of 5 cars.
Exactly. Those types of things. So moving further along the corridor, we have a lot of different challenges along this corridor just because of some of the physical characteristics. In other words, if I'm making a morning commute, I'm headed downtown from the south, the sunrise at times can get in our face and create sun glare, which again creates some potential for collision, right? We're traveling along the corridor, we get sun glare. So we're actually evaluating what some of the physical characteristics are along the corridor, and are there some changes that we can make to reduce those? So that's one type of challenge.
And it says here compression wave. What is that? Please explain that to me.
Yeah, along the corridor, we have different points along the corridor where traffic tends to slow down. And we call those compression waves. So a traveling public may be traveling 55 miles an hour along the corridor, and all of a sudden there's a compression up front where travel speeds will slow down to something much less, 40 miles an hour, 35 miles an hour, and we call that compression. So what our challenge there is to figure out, are there ways that we can inform the public that the speeds have reduced so that they're not traveling up on those compression points very quickly and creating incidences. So that's what we mean by compression wave.
And does that occur at certain locations in the freeway?
Yeah, it sure does.
Could you explain that more?
Yeah, we see that due to several different reasons. One is, as I referred to earlier, merge-weave points. So where we have a lot of merge and weave conditions occurring, that will cause traffic to slow down. That will then cause compression points. The other thing that will happen is if we have vertical profiles along the corridor, which in Houston you don't always think of there being vertical profiles, but there are certainly vertical profiles along the corridor. People will come up on the traffic very quickly and not be able to react.
You mean like a ramp, a bridge?
Yes. So you come over a vertical curve and you recognize that traffic has slowed down in front of you, and so that will also cause one of those areas of compression, and then it just kind of builds on itself. Other examples are, and one of the biggest challenges along this corridor are incidents. And we call incidents either recurring or non-recurring incidents. The non-recurring are the ones that we're trying to figure out how to deal with best. There was over 1,800 crashes reported along this facility last year. And those are just reported incidents. We know that there were more that were non-reported. Those incidents will oftentimes contribute to excessive delay depending on the type and the duration of those incidents. So one of our challenges and one of the strategies that we're looking at is, can we develop better strategies for managing traffic when those incidents occur? How do we clear the incidents more quickly? And then if it's a longer duration incident that's going to last, say, for more than 2 hours, how do we go ahead and deal with the traffic and manage the traffic during those incidents? And there's a lot of different options that we have to consider for how we can go about doing that. There's a lot of great infrastructure already put in place along these corridors. In particular, the Southwest Freeway, we've got dynamic message signs. So if we can provide advance information to the travelers before they come up on an incident about the incident itself, and perhaps even provide them some route choices that would allow them to detour around the incidents, that's one example of what we might want to do. Just informing the public before they even get in their vehicle and providing them advance traveler information before they get in their car, it will help them plan their trip better.
You might be able to just route around those things.
Yes, or we provide it to them to where they maybe can even delay their trip. Maybe they don't need to make the trip right now and they can delay it. So,
What else can you show me on this
sure.
plan?
Intersections are always a challenge wherever we have intersections, obviously.
Show me an intersection. Point one out.
Well, here's one on Bel Air Boulevard, and we've got intersections on both sides of the freeway, obviously, where it intersects with each of the frontage roads. And so wherever we have traffic signal operations, we're going to be exploring, are there different ways that we can deal with our traffic signal control during particular times of the day. The city of Houston does a great job of managing their traffic throughout the course of the day. We've got some intelligence built into our traffic signal controllers that we can use to adjust traffic signal timing patterns based on when particular incidences occur. So one of our traffic management strategies would be to figure out how do we best manage traffic when an incident occurs, and some of that traffic management might include changing traffic signal timing patterns along the frontage roads so that we can give preference to vehicles that are more prone to be making a trip in a certain direction. So based on traffic volumes, giving preference to those vehicles to try to increase, again, throughput. We've already talked about the ramp backups and the merge weave. Again, that's something we're going to continue to look at. You'll see here high stalled vehicle location. There seems to be certain areas along the corridor that are a bit more prone to incidents than others. Some of that is occurring because of the physical characteristics of the corridor, so we'll be exploring those in further detail. Is where are the tendencies for vehicles to have more incidences, not just because of the physical characteristics, but are there certain locations where, for other reasons perhaps, there might be more stalled vehicles and recurring congestion. So trying to predict a bit more where incidents tend to occur not only will help us concentrate on those areas, but also we might be able to deal with developing better traffic management strategies around those particular areas. Obviously, the 610 59 interchanges are one of the most heavily congested interchanges in the state. TxDOT is already in the process of evaluating different improvements, some direct connect ramps to improve capacity at that particular location. We're going to also be looking at, if you'll notice here, one of our challenges is that the frontage roads don't continue on underneath. We've got the West Park Toll Road that certainly provides some access through this interchange area, but the frontage roads themselves do not connect back up through underneath 610. So there's a loss of connectivity through this interchange to get people from one side of the interchange to the other.
An alternative to getting onto the system.
Yes. So one of the things that obviously we're going to be looking at is what's the cost associated with trying to provide that connectivity to construct those frontage roads underneath that interchange, and what's the benefit associated with that.
And so we've got about 5 minutes left. What's the most important thing that you would like to leave the public with about this system, and what occurs to you that you're considering?
Well, the whole objective behind this study, and we are in a study phase right now, and that's why public input is so very important in engaging with the public during this process, because we really want to hear from them what their perspective is, what their particular issues are, so we can take those in consideration. But one of the key objectives is we understand that financial resources are scarce. We can't continue to build ourselves out of this congestion. There's only so much right-of-way, and the cost for continuing to expand by building more main lanes, for instance, is just cost prohibitive. We can't. So the purpose behind this study is we're looking for lower cost alternatives for improving capacity along the corridor. So what are some of those low-cost alternatives? It would be traffic operations. How do we deal with our traffic better along the corridor to help us increase capacity? Can we manage traffic differently? The other thing that we want to consider is how do we deal with informing the public before they get in their vehicle? Are there different things that we can do to give them better information before they make their trip so that they're making better and more informed travel choices? We also want to take a look, are there any low-cost improvement alternatives, some system modifications like ramp modifications or ramp relocations that we can consider that would have great impact along the corridor. And then one of the things that I think the Houston region does extremely well right now is providing different travel options, carpooling, van pooling, telecommuting. The employers in the area have done a very good job of implementing some of those programs. So we want to continue to make sure that we're doing a good job of implementing those programs because they can have a great impact along the corridor.
Thank you, Brent. Marco Bracamontes again, Manager of Public Outreach here with H-GAC. And I want to just recap for the Spanish-speaking audience what's happening here. Bienvenidos todos a esta junta comunitaria que explica la situación del corredor de la supercarretera 59, ahora redenominada la I-69, o como lo llamamos el Southwest Freeway, tan importante para la población latina, para la población hispana. Estamos hablando de la zona de Hillcrop, de la zona de Fulton, y necesitamos sus comentarios respecto a los problemas que ustedes reciben, que ustedes enfrentan día con día al ir a su trabajo, al ir a su empresa, al ir a su negocio, al ir a su escuela. Quisiéramos que nos dieran sus comentarios, que visiten al sitio de internet www.mysouthwestfreeway.com. Este es el mysouthwestfreeway.com. Es el sitio de internet que ustedes tienen que visitar para conocer más los materiales, la situación que está pasando y darnos sus comentarios a comentarios@h-gac.com, comentarios@h-gac.com. Mil gracias por su atención. Hemos estado aquí desde las oficinas del Houston-Galveston Area Council. Gracias.
So what we have here as far as congestion mitigation strategies, and this is basically letting people know about queue warnings, basically when they can actually come up onto traffic and let people know that they need to actually slow down before they get to the backup where the bottleneck is actually occurring within the corridor.
So explain that a little more.
So as the peak period congestion builds up through the course of the day, I'm sorry, as the traffic builds up during the day, you have the congestion as it actually backs up into the corridor. We actually warn people that they need to slow down before they get to the back of the stop vehicles in front of them to basically reduce the amount of crashes that occur within the freeway section.
Okay, and the next one?
Dynamic rerouting. This is actually telling folks that there is congestion in the corridor and that they should actually take the time to look for other ways to get to where they're going. Basically saying that if you can get from point A to point B using a different route or different street, then they should look at those different ways of getting from different roads instead of using 59 corridor. Managed or HOV or hot lanes are what you're experiencing today, where we're actually using transit has its priority on the managed lane, and that's where we're running the buses. And so it allows people to have more reliability within the corridor, better travel time speeds, and it gives people a choice when they have to actually get from their work or to home in a more expeditious way to be able to pick up the kids and be able to get to home on time. Managed lanes actually give us the opportunity to let those people have the reliability that they need in their lives. Variable speed limits, this is actually looking at ways to reduce the speeds on the facility based upon congestion. Around 40 to 45 miles an hour is the most efficient capacity handling that we can get on a freeway section. So by telling folks to slow down just a little bit, they can actually get to where they're going faster. Ramp flow control, this is ramp metering, something that you're very familiar with these days. And what that does is it limits the amount of traffic that's actually getting on the freeway. And so you're actually able to get better flows on the freeway section just by metering or reducing the amount of traffic that's getting on at any point at any given time. Dynamic merge control, this is what you see a lot of along 610, and as we get up to 45, you see those people that are getting in and making the lane change at the very last moment, and this tries to give the people information to where they're not making that cutting in front of the people in front of that have been waiting in line. So hopefully this is what this does, it lets people use the facility in a more friendly way, and also fixes some of the merge weave or the congestion as it occurs. It lets people make the decisions sooner. Signal optimization, operations and management. This is just how we prioritize and give green time to the cross streets and to the main traffic. And so by modifying the signal operation by time of day, we're able to get more people through the intersections and reduce the overall delay. But it also lets us look at signal operations as a system. So we look at prioritization of corridors to where you have those green band progressions. We're able to hit multiple green lights as we're going through the corridor. And by doing this and adjusting those routes, we're actually able to get people through the system more efficiently. Traveler information systems. This is basically being able to give people the opportunity to make decisions earlier. So by using the dynamic messaging sign and actually giving real-time information, we're actually able to give them the opportunity to make choices before they get to congestion in the roadway. We're talking about ramp configuration. Typically we have what's called a diamond pattern, and you can see the diamond pattern where we have the exit ramps very close to the intersections. But when we actually are able to space them out into what we call an X pattern, you actually get onto the frontage road and then you drive up to the intersection. What this does too, it provides an opportunity to improve traffic signal operations at the intersections because it gives you basically an intersection bypass. So the people that actually want to go through the intersection have an option. If they're just trying to get to a business that's located along the frontage road, they don't necessarily have to go through the intersection itself. Access management. This applies not only to the freeways but also to the frontage roads, where we look at driveway spacing. You know, when you have multiple driveways that are like 20 feet apart, you have a lot of conflict points, and when you have conflict points along the roadway, you have a lot of crashes, and it also impedes the amount of traffic that we can handle on the roadway. By spacing out our driveways and putting the right number of driveways to be able to access the businesses, it's actually a win-win for everyone. Variable pricing. This is where as the roadway gets more congested, we raise the amount of prices in our toll facilities because people want to pay for that reliability, be able to get home in a time that they can anticipate and predict. And by allowing us the variability of the pricing, it allows us to make sure that the freeways are operating at their optimal level.